on the debate tonight.
कांग्रेस के लोग आतंकवादियों को बिरयानी खिलाते थे और मोदी जी की सेना आतंकवादियों को गोली और गोला देती है।
बालकोट के अंदर हमारी मिसाइलों ने, हमारे सुरक्षा बलों ने घुस करके पूरे के पूरे इलाके को तबाह किया और उन आतंकवादियों को भी खत्म किया। दिक्कत ये हुई कि कांग्रेस पार्टी, समाजवादी पार्टी, बहुजन समाज पार्टी सब चिल्लाने लगे कि भाई ये जो है, जो मोदी जी ने घुस करके, मोदी जी की सेना ने घुस करके आतंकवादियों को तबाह किया, उसका सबूत दिखा दो।
Over 150 army veterans have written a letter demanding an end to politicizing the Indian Defence Forces.
Defence Forces will remain apolitical. Nobody can say and nobody should say that Sena belongs to a word like Modi ki Sena.
After the scathing letter surfaced earlier today, former Air Force Chief Air Marshal Suri, along with former Army Chief General Rodrigues and Lieutenant General M.L. Naidu, denied signing such a letter.
मैं तो अभी देखते जा रहा हूँ न्यूज़ पे कि कोई group of veterans has applied to the president. But as far as they are concerned, they've just said that we don't want to be political.
Opposition parties who also have indulged in politicizing the surgical strike and airstrikes are now jumping in with strong reactions against the Modi government.
If this isn't enough of an embarrassment for this government, I don't know what is.
Meanwhile, Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has condemned the circulation of the letter, calling it fake and saying that it was signed by a group with vested interests.
It is very worrying that if people's consent are not even being taken and fake letters, fake allegations are being signed by some vested interest groups, it is absolutely condemnable.
Mirror now asks, shouldn't political parties refrain from politicizing the army? Should political parties claim credit for the army's achievements? Let's debate.
Well, does the army fight for Bharat or for BJP? There are several questions to be asked today. The merit of the letter that has been written, the merit of the argument that is being made in the letter. And at the end of the day, let's remember that the Defence Minister, Mr. Nirmala Sitharaman, actually responded to the fact that a couple of people's names had been included in that letter without their consent, but she did not respond to the issue that was raised in the letter. That's our focus this evening. Are political parties using the army for electoral gains, and should they be allowed to? On the show with me, Brigadier Rumel Dahiya is a strategic affairs expert, also former Air Marshal Kapil Kak, Syed Zafar Islam for the BJP, Geetha Bhatt is an academician, and Major Priyadarshi Chaudhary, Shaurya Chakra, who we're being told has written the letter. My first question is to Major Chaudhary. Major Chaudhary, good evening and thank you for joining us. We've had a fair amount of controversy erupt around the letter about the fact that permission was not taken. Several people, former chiefs, have turned around and said that they did not consent to their names being added to the letter. Do you have a response to that?
Yes. So let me put it this way. There were a core group of officers who was taking sanction from various veterans. The draft letter was circulated to each one of them across course groups and our friends and colleagues. And after written confirmation from them, it's only then that we endorsed the letters with 156 names. There is no doubt about their confirmation or endorsement or concurrence to the draft that was circulated and which I had dispatched to the Rashtrapati Bhavan at 12:26 yesterday night.
Rashtrapati Bhavan claims that it has not received any such letter. Do you have proof that you have sent it to Rashtrapati Bhavan?
Yes, I did. I tweeted out a screenshot where 3 addresses of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, including the Undersecretary for Grievance Redressal, were marked on it. The ECI was marked as a CC, as we had mentioned in the letter. Admiral Ramdas and General Bombarkere were also marked CCs on it. That letter is in the screenshot is in the public domain. It is for Rashtrapati Bhavan to answer whether the email addresses mentioned in that email are theirs or not. That is number 1.
Yes.
2, the physical copy of the letter is being sent by registered post. 3, it is an open letter. 156 officers of the armed forces have taken ownership of this letter. Barring 2, that is General Suri and Air Marshal Suri and General Rodrigues.
Yes.
We'll come back to that issue later. My question to you is, when
Yes.
all other officers are taking ownership for this,
yes,
where is the doubt?
Right, Major Chaudhary, my next question to you is this:
So,
what prompted you to write this letter? You say here in the letter that it's unusual and completely unacceptable practice for political leaders to take credit for military operations. Could you tell us what brought this group of 156 officers together? What prompted you? What was the trigger to write this letter?
So we in the Indian Armed Forces take pride in being a professional force and remaining apolitical and secular. For the past few years, there has been a sense of disquiet regarding the politicization, and when we mean politicization, when armed forces are being used to ask for votes. While the government is well within its rights to take credit for the strong action against terrorist actions, this sort of vote-seeking and electoral politics and involving the army in it is, we consider, a threat to democracy.
All right, fair enough. Let me get...
Hitherto, we have always remained insulated.
Yes. Allow me to bring in responses to what you...
Hitherto, we have always remained insulated. We don't need to get involved in electoral politics.
Fair enough. Zafar Islam of the BJP joins us.
You were saying something?
Yes. Zafar Islam of the BJP joins us. Mr. Islam, very clear arguments being made by Major Chaudhary. He's been very forthcoming about all of the questions, with all of the questions I've asked him. What is your response to the letter itself? Things like Modi ji ki Sena, the Prime Minister himself saying, pledge your votes to the martyrs of Pulwama and those who carried out the Balakot attacks. Isn't the party taking credit for the work that the Army and the Air Force has done?
Not at all. Let me tell you, I think the most differentiating factor here, that we are not taking the credit. We are actually giving credit to the armed forces for the valor they have demonstrated, for what they have demonstrated by doing Balakot, the kind of surgical strike they have done, the air strike they have conducted. So we are giving credit. But what is important for all of us to realize, that what we are highlighting is the political will, which was missing in the past, has been demonstrated, has been given by the Honorable Prime Minister, something which was missing in the past. And I can say with conviction, after 26/11, nothing has been done. Why? Because there was no political will, and there are some ex-servicemen have gone on record saying that had we been given permission, we could have conducted a surgical strike, or we could have taken revenge, but we didn't get the permission from the government of at that time. But today, what we are saying, that Modi ji, as the Prime Minister of this country, has boosted the morale of the armed forces, the air forces, and given them free hand to deal with situation like this, when the evil eyes are looking at you, the Fidaina is looking at you to conduct some terrorist act.
Mr. Islam.
And you have to take appropriate action, and something which was missing in the past, and that is what only
Mr.
we are
Islam,
talking about.
When you say Modi ji ke Sena,
to the armed forces.
When you say Modi ji ke Sena, does the Sena serve the Prime Minister, or does the Sena serve the country?
No. Well, Modi ji does not have a Sena. Modi ji is only a Prime Minister of this country. Sena, the army belongs to this nation.
So,
the army takes guidance and instruction from the incumbent government, and Modi ji leads that government, and Modi ji has given that guidance and permission and the political will what needed to be shown, that has been shown by the Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Islam.
And that's why if somebody in certain perspective or in context have said, I think the narration should be corrected, but the intent,
No.
I think you need to understand what exactly what he meant by saying
When
that.
you say Modi ji ke sena ghus ghus ke marenge, you're effectively taking credit, especially if you want to look at context. Remember that this was said at an election campaign in a speech. Now, let me ask you one more question. When the Prime Minister says, pledge your vote to the martyrs of Pulwama, pledge your vote to those who carried out the Balkot campaign, are the people of the forces, is the Army and the Air Force running for elections this time, Mr. Islam? Are they contesting? Are they the candidates?
No.
Then who are we pledging our votes to?
No. I think you need to understand that. I think you need to understand. I think the people of India have understood what exactly he meant. What he meant, basically, that the national security and the national security is a very important issue in the country, something which has been compromised in the past by the political parties, and something which is important. The nation, the people of this great country is raising this issue, whether we are in the safe hand, whether country is in the safe hand,
Mr. Islam,
whether the Pulwama kind of strike, whether the Balakot kind of a response is something which everyone needs to understand.
When you ask whether or not we are in safe hands, are you doubting our armed forces? Are you doubting our armed forces and our paramilitary forces when you say, are we in safe hands?
Not at all.
So are you suggesting, that we will not be in safe hands?
And we will never.
If the BJP is not in power? Are you suggesting that the Army, the Navy and the Air Force will not do their jobs if the BJP is not in power? Have they failed us in the past, Mr. Islam, in your opinion?
We are not even for a moment saying that it is only in... No, let me just complete. Not even for a moment we are saying that it is safe because Bharatiya Janata Party is in the government. It is safe because Bharatiya Janata Party led NDA government has demonstrated that will, political will. And that is something which we want to really emphasize, because
how are you emphasizing that? By asking us to pledge our votes to the Pulwama martyrs?
Which government,
how
which
dare you bring in the
Pulwama
martyrs, Mr. Islam, in an election campaign? What you're saying right now is we have the political will. That is very different from pledge your votes to the Pulwama martyrs. How is that the same thing?
No, you have to understand the context and the perspective. The context is that the country is dealing with terrorism, and you need to vote, use your vote, understand the dynamics, understand what country is dealing with, the situation, and use your vote.
So are you telling me? If the BJP doesn't come into power?
This is an important issue.
No, if you're telling me effectively, if the BJP doesn't come to power, terrorists will overrun this country and our borders will not be safe and our army will not be able to do its job. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I'm not even for a moment making that statement, because we take pride in our armed forces. We have absolutely no reason to even for a second doubt about the credibility and credentials and the capability of our armed forces.
Let me bring in the rest of the panel. Brigadier Dahiya is with us as well. Just one second.
UPA, Congress, we do not have confidence, and the people of India have no confidence in them, that whether they can show that political will.
Brigadier Dahiya, do you want to respond? And I just want to bring in responses from the rest of the panel one by one. Do you want to respond to what Mr. Islam has just said?
Yeah, I think you give me 2 minutes to explain.
Yes.
First, let's not trivialize the situation by saying that 2 of the people have withdrawn their or have said that their consent wasn't taken. It doesn't matter. And if it is not just 154, I would say 1,54,000 would have been ready to sign this letter, because each one of the soldiers believe that armed forces should never be politicized. Now, this does not mean that no military in the world is politicized. In China, for example, in PRC, the PLA is thoroughly politicized. All senior officers are members of the party. In Pakistan, in any case, the military itself is a political party without being recognized as such, because they act politically all the time. But the kind of system that we have chosen, in that system, the army has to be kept away from the politics of division, of hate, of the competitive politics, electoral politics that we are into. Having said that, let me say this. It would be absolutely right for the government to claim, clearly in simple indirect language, that this government displayed a political will during surgical strike and also the airstrike on Balakot. Undoubtedly, it is undeniable. But I'm surprised at the lack of sophistication and the lack of understanding of the government and the party in power in not saying like that, in trying to create controversy where none should exist. They are on a very strong pedestal. They are on a high ground, moral high ground, when they say that they have the political will, and they demonstrated it. After all, no armed forces in a democratic country can act on its own and go and launch an attack somewhere. There have been many occasions when the army has been seething with anger and have been wanting to take very strong action against Pakistan. But it can't, it understands, the Indian army understands that it can't do it by itself. So therefore, the decision has to come from the government, and the government is well within its rights to claim that credit for having taken a strong decision and asked the armed forces to take action. But why make it? Why politicize it like this? But this is not the only government which has politicized. After all, it started even in the 62 was a result of political interference and politicization of the armed forces, where senior positions were chosen. And that is why you saw the result that happened. Unfortunately, we have Chief Minister of some state making some silly statement. Not one state, many states. The one from South also today saying that what kind of people join army. There was a lawmaker from Bihar a couple of months back who said, so what are the Faujis doing? You know, they get paid for getting killed. Of course, none of them sends their son to the army to get killed. That's a different matter. So the question is this, that each one of them, when it suits them, makes a silly statement, gets away with it, because the armed forces cannot speak for themselves, and they've taken it too far. Actually, armed forces should be able to speak. After all, the British Chief of Staff, he made very clear and he criticized the British government for not giving adequate resources to the British Armed Forces in Afghanistan.
Yes, Brigadier, forgive me.
I resigned because he disagreed with it. Shinshenki resigned.
Yes. Let me. I do have to give everyone an opportunity to speak.
Please go ahead.
Yes, former Air Marshal Kapil Garg is with us. Air Marshal Kapil Garg is with us. Air Marshal Garg, what is your opinion on this matter? Do you believe that, like Brigadier Dahiya said, that it's gone too far and politicians must restrain themselves right now?
Absolutely. I mean, that is why I'm one of the signatories, incidentally, to the letter. And it's not a one-off kind of event. Unfortunately, the media and individuals have taken the absence of the endorsement of two very senior people of the services and concentrated there rather than on the essence of the meaning of the letter that has been initiated and sent to the Rashtrapati. It's in utter frustration. A couple of months ago, we had a group, some people are also in the group who have signed this letter. We organized a seminar on armed forces and how they must uphold the Constitution of India. So this is not some political slugfest we are entered into. This is a consideration of the unique Trinitarian set of forces which define the relationship between the state or the government at one end, between India's public and civil society on the other, and the third element is the armed forces. Armed forces are created by the state to safeguard the interests of the nation. In turn, the government, after having created them, funds them, keeps them in a state of preparedness. As far as the public is concerned, they absolutely, unbelievably support the armed forces for every action they take.
Yes.
I mean, the third element is the armed forces, their own self-imposed contract that they will support the democratic framework, they will remain political in every sense and be totally secular, not in the manner in which secularism is now being dissected depending on which party you belong to. So we are, I'm afraid we are going through very dark times. This letter is a reflection of the understanding of a set of people, some of whom, like me, entered the armed forces as teenagers and have served for 40 years in the uniform and about 20 years in public domain, trying to bring out issues of security and defense into the public domain. I want to raise the point of a defense minister of India terming me a signatory into a vested interest. What is my vested interest? I'm not a political body, and I'm raising issues on which she has not even ventured to comment. And those issues are very simple. They have already been debated. Faye, you yourself said, Modi ji ki Sena. I mean, what effect does it do for Sena? Forget about the veterans. We've lived our life. What does it do to the serving officers and airmen and Jawans and sailors of the three services? They don't have a voice. Their voice doesn't get amplified. The only way their voice gets amplified is indirectly, because we believe we have a role, because there are organic links between the retired and the serving. Those are on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a raising day, whether it's celebration of an event or Independence Day or whatever that be. So you see this as an organic entity, and to that extent,
let me just ask you one question. We had
whistleblower.
Sorry, forgive me. We had Zafar Islam just argue that what the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister Adityanath meant when they made those statements is that this government had the political will to make decisions, and this government has increased the morale of these serving officers. In your letter, you have said that comments like this actually decrease the morale of the officers. Do you disagree with Zafar Islam on that
because
point?
They see this as an No, I think it needs to be understood in a far more nuanced manner. We need to differentiate between the government and the party. I think that is the fundamental issue. Of course, the government must take credit for whatever actions they take. They take the risk when they take decisions and achieve outcomes which benefit them. So if the Prime Minister of India in Sweden or in the US or in China or elsewhere says, my government has done great successes, we'll all applaud. But this is not for the party functionaries and even functionaries like a Chief Minister of State to call India's army as an individual's army. I mean, related issue, I mean, I'm so surprised that as it is the debate, political debate is very coarse, and it's uncivilized. Most of the expressions used would actually behove a banana republic, and we aspire to be a great power. We need to get more sophistication. We need to be more civilized, because this is not the last elections. India will have many more elections. But in the midst of this, we have a union minister telling a community that if you don't vote for me, naming that community and saying, I'll not give you jobs. We heard the other statements that have been quoted by my
I just have one more voice on the panel.
I think the time for action is now, Faye.
Yes. Very well said. Time for action is now.
Action is now. What is that action?
Yes. Geeta Bhatt joins us as well.
The President of India, since we wrote, the same group of people led by the former naval chief, wrote a letter to the Chief Election Commissioner. As I said, this is not a one-off issue. And said, can you do something to stop this politicization? In fairness to the Chief Election Commissioner, he did issue an advisory.
Yes.
But Faye and my distinguished panelists, you all and me and everyone knows India is in Chalta Hai mode. Everybody does what he or she thinks she needs to do. No care for law.
No care for that. Yes.
No care for civility.
Forgive me, Air Marshal Kak, for a second. I have to bring in Geeta Bhatt as well. Geeta Bhatt joins us. Geeta Bhatt is an academician. She's a professor. She's also a supporter of the RSS. Ms. Bhatt, do you agree with the retired officers on the panel right now that the forces, whether in photograph or in word or in reference, should just not come up? in election campaigns. It's just not okay to take credit for them.
Yeah, see, Faye, General Kak has, made some very pertinent points, and all of, some of the panelists, they have, Air Marshal, and some of the other panelists also who've been from the forces. Of course, they have been contributing, have contributed to our army and to the armed forces. So whatever they are saying has its own importance. However, I would like to bring 2-3 points over here. First point that I want to say is that, if any group or any political party, if they feel pride in their, in their armed forces, and if they go out and reach out to the countrymen or to the people of the country, and they try to talk about the valor of their forces, I don't think there is any, this should be discriminated. However, what the problem happened is that there has been a division within the political parties, the way the forces have acted, especially, what happened post Pulwama and the Balakot attack. Now, considering the fact that, I wonder if there are some, some kind of a protest letters which have also been written by some of the veterans, to these political parties and their leaders who have come out and have questioned, the role of our forces, the way our Air Force had struck at Balakot.
Geeta, and have very good attempt to move the conversation in a different direction. No. Yeah, I'm asking you in election season to go out and ask for votes in the name of the army. Stay on point. Stay on point. No, stay on point.
You have to look.
No, it's not. No. Stay on point.
But the point is that you have to look everything in perspective.
No, you don't have to look everything in perspective.
You showed a lot of clips, but you forgot to show the clip of Urmila Matondkar, who is a Congress candidate from your own Mumbai. She has been seen going around with,
we have shown that clip. Show the clip again.
The photograph of the wing commander. He has, she's been doing that. So all political parties.
I never said only one did.
Those who are trying to politicize. That is something which this needs to be taken into account. And second, I mean, let me complete. You are not letting me complete, Faye. You at least need to give me some time. I've been very patiently listening to each and everyone's comment. Of course, I totally agree that politicization needn't be done, and one cannot. But my point is that why is it that the political parties who are saying that the forces are being dragged into this, they should not be done. But why can't each one of them say that yes, national security is one of the most key points, and we are going to be just the way that this government has gone and struck at Balakot.
I'll tell you
why. We are going to
be
like that. This could have been.
Geeta, but all right, we heard you out. Take a breath. All right, calm down. Let me get a response.
And second point is, no, you don't let me speak. You gave me 10 seconds more because this is
I will give you exactly 10 seconds more. Time starts now.
Some of the political parties who have documented absolutely, they have been demoralizing our armed forces by actually documenting and saying that we are going to remove the immunity of our forces on sexual violence and torture.
Right,
this kind of a demoralization.
Okay.
I hope that the
all right. Okay. Kapil Kak will answer. Air Marshal Kapil Kak will answer, please. Okay, Geeta, but I give you the time. Kapil Kak will answer, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have just one point. I mean, the points that are made are reasonable, but to presume that the national security is an imperative only for this government and it has not been an imperative for previous government, I think is indefensible argument. Because it is known that the current ruling dispensation has used militarism, muscularity, with no positive approaches either on Jammu and Kashmir or towards a dialogue with Pakistan, no matter how much Pakistan has done damage to India over the last 4.5–5 years. But the issue is much beyond what we are seemingly trying to address. And that issue is national security is every Indian's prerogative and responsibility. Secondly, no way can the armed forces be politicized as Brigadier Rumel Daya said, you will soon take the mode of China or Pakistan. That cannot happen because the mood that is generated in the country seems to suggest, rather perversely, in that direction. And I, as an armed forces man, former armed forces man, will give my life for the cause in which India remains secular, it remains democratic, and armed forces remain apolitical and supportive of the democratic
Very well said.
framework.
Major Chaudhary, I want you to respond to what Geeta Bhatt said about why haven't you written letters to the other political parties when they questioned the actions in Balakot?
So we haven't written to any political party. We have written to the President with a copy to the EC, and we have marked BJP, Congress, AAP, SP, as many as we could on the tweet thread that we said, asking for responses. It is for the political parties to respond. Now there are two clear demarcations here which Air Marshal Kak and Brigadier Daya have specified. There is a difference between the government and a political party. All the veterans and the armed forces feel pride when the government acts strongly against hits on our serving officers and soldiers. There is no doubting that one. But you cannot aim to obfuscate the issue by shooting the messenger. Since yesterday, the BJP troll army, including, well, what can I say? The Nirmala Sitharaman, the defense minister, says it's a fake letter. How different is this from post-Balakot when the BJP and the RSS claimed that anybody who questions the armed forces is an anti-national? And here, there are 156 officers who have written a letter to the President, which is using the institutional mechanism that is available to us. And here you are questioning us and doubting our integrity and capability. Is this what nationalism is all about? But I'm sorry, we don't subscribe to that view. We will defend our integrity and those of our boys who are serving. They cannot speak. Their freedom of speech is abrogated. And as Brigadier Daya said, and Air Marshal Kak also mentioned, we have an organic relationship with our units and our boys. We will fight that battle for them. And we are doing so.
Very well said. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to leave it with no comment from myself either, because this is for you to decide as the audience. Everyone has had their say. Everyone has put forward their arguments, including the politician who was on the panel. I'll leave it for you to decide whether politicians are in fact taking it too far, taking credit for the work done by the Army, the Navy and the Air Force. Should they stop immediately? And is this, in fact, the beginning of a very, very slippery slope? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. But moving on to a second conversation that we want to have right now. As you know, earlier this year in January, the leaked NSSO data report revealed unemployment in India was at a 45-year high. That data, you'll also remember, was never released by the government of India. Today, more NSSO data accessed by the Business Standard has come to light. It reveals that 11 Indian states have unemployment rates higher than the national average in 2017-18. 7 of these states, including Bihar, Orissa, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Kerala, Assam, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Punjab and Tamil Nadu, where the number is extremely high. On the phone line with me is Somesh Jha, special correspondent of the Business Standard, who's been breaking all of these stories. Also with us, Santosh Mehrotra, professor of economics for the Center of Studies, and we have Gopal Agarwal of the BJP. Do we have Somesh Jha on the phone line? Somesh, good evening. If you could hear me clearly, could you just tell our audience the significance of this latest story that you have broken about the 11 states that have unemployment higher than the national average?
So, I mean, the most significant bit about this story was the fact that some of the states which have had really low unemployment rate in the past have seen a spike in the unemployment rate in 17-18 when you compare it to the past years. For example, Gujarat, which had the lowest unemployment rate in 2011-12, when this survey was last conducted at 0.5%. Now, the unemployment rate in Gujarat is 4.8%. I mean, that's a pretty big jump. So after that, we've seen states like, typically states like Karnataka and Gujarat, which have lower unemployment rates, have seen a jump. So that's some kind of a worrying sign. And right now, the lowest unemployment rate is in Chhattisgarh. We saw in West Bengal, the spike in the unemployment rate was the least. So it was one of the better performing states of all. So that is somewhat the summary of the whole, story which we broke today.
Right. Somesh, just to tie in the previous conversations we've had about the data and how the government is treating the data at this point, the government had given us a commitment that the data would be released by the end of March. Have you, from your sources, picked up what happened to that deadline and why it hasn't been met?
Last time I heard the statistics minister telling a TV channel that we are not going to release the data because of the model code of conduct. I mean, I don't know why this is happening, because this survey was done much before the elections were announced, and there was a set timeline when it was supposed to be released, and I think it's all very coordinated. The government is in no mood to release it before the elections for whatever reasons.
All right, Somesh, again, congratulations on the big news break. And thank you for bringing us this information. Somesh Jha of the Business Standard, who's broken a story. Just to give you, if you pop that up on the screen again, the unemployment rates of specific states from the NSSO data that was accessed by the Business Standard. The highest is Kerala at 11%. Haryana at 8.6, Assam at 8.1. Now, here's the worrying thing. Assam in 2011-12 was 4.7%. It's now 8.1%, and that's a massive jump. Punjab should be something that worries us, 2.2% to 7.8%. There's a similar jump in Tamil Nadu, which has gone from 2.2 to 7.6, and Bihar, Orissa, both have gone from 2 and 3% to 7%. On the conversation with me is Professor Santosh Mehrotra and Gopal Agarwal. Professor Mehrotra, how worried should we be for the states that have taken a jump from 2% unemployment to 7 or 8% unemployment? All right. Professor Mehrotra, there seems to be something wrong with the audio, but we'll get that checked immediately. Gopal Agarwal of the BJP with us as well. Gopal Agarwal, is there a response right now to this data of why some states have had such a sharp jump in unemployment? Gujarat has gone from 0.5% to 4.8%.
Where the problem is that this data is not authentic, one thing, because we don't know the source. It's a social media or leak or whatever. It's not a complete data. In statistics, if you quote selectively, you can arrive at any conclusion. The thing is that there is no complete data. Second thing is, these are basically surveys. These are not the whole total data. These are just a surveys, statistical report based on surveys. The issue is what is the sample size. Then the third point is how you frame the question. The biggest problem here in the employment debate is that how do you question when you are going for a survey or anything. If there are 60% of our population is engaged in agriculture and who is owning a farmhouse, farmland, if you ask him, are you in a job? He is not in job. He is self-employed. He is doing entrepreneurship.
Okay, one second.
He is doing
Mr.
working
Agarwal.
in his own field.
Mr.
Several
Agarwal.
type of people are doing in MSME, manufacturing sector,
Mr. Agarwal,
which
you are
are
obfuscating
working on
the issue.
entrepreneurship, self-employment basis. And if you ask them, do you have a job? Are you employed? This is a different thing.
No.
Mr.
Okay, all right. Let me grant you this, Gopal Agarwal.
One second. No, let me finish.
No, Mr. Agarwal.
Issue,
Every time you give me this argument, then just give us the data. The government should release the data. Release the data, Mr. Agarwal. Release the data. We'll talk about the data that you release. But you're not releasing any data, so I have nothing else to talk about. You keep telling me that all the other data is useless. Then give me the data that's useful.
But the problem is the data in itself. But the data in itself is confusing. It's not proper. It is not checked. It's based on surveys.
You should hire statisticians.
Every 5 years the data was coming. We have tried to improve that through
You've tried to
various
improve it
other
by not
means
giving us
that
any data.
employment rate every quarter, every 3 months,
Okay,
we are
so
coming out.
Gopal
But it will
Agarwal's
take time.
response
We are giving data, but the issue
that the data
is
shouldn't
it
be
is
trusted.
not reconciling with the total employment generated in the economy.
Okay, all right.
You
Allow
have to
Santosh
understand
Mehrotra
that
to
these
rebut.
surveys reports are not complete data, and how
you
can
don't
you
trust the
debate
data.
on a data
Because I
report
don't have any
which
data
is
from
in
the
itself
government.
is based on survey first thing, which is
Okay,
not
allow
complete.
Professor Mehrotra to respond to you, please. Professor
It is
Mehrotra
not
joins
complete.
us.
First thing, you can ask if government should release the data. Okay, Faye, you can ask.
So release the
everybody
data.
has a right to ask that government should come out with and release the data. But you cannot debate on an incomplete data and based on that incomplete data.
So when is the government releasing the data, Mr. Agarwal? You were supposed to release it mid-March. It's a month late. Why is the government not releasing the data?
Niti Aayog or the government has said that we will, first they had said that they will be releasing it on 31st March. I don't know what is the problem.
Can I guess?
There is an official communication that there is a problem with the data.
There is a problem with the elections,
and there is
Mr.
a problem means there is a problem.
The problem is that there is an election.
Believe the institutions. If you want to talk about how employment has been generated, I can give you so many examples.
I don't want to talk about this unless you give me data, because then we are having a debate without any reliable data, right? That's what you said. Okay, let's go to Professor Mehrotra. If Gopal Agarwal says we should not have a discussion without data, then let's not. I don't want to hear your anecdotal evidence about how many Ola cars and Uber cars there are on the road. Give us the data, then we'll have a conversation. Professor Mehrotra, the argument about the fact that this data is not to be relied on, I'm not going to take that argument forward because we've had that argument 5 times already. The question of Gujarat going from 0 to 4.5%, Tamil Nadu going from 2.2 to 7.6%, Haryana going from 2.8 to 8.6% according to the latest data. Mr. Agarwal says it's because this data is incomplete and hence unreliable. As a statistician yourself, do you believe that this data is reliable?
And how it doesn't even tell how you define employment, livelihood, whether there is
no, Mr. Agarwal, please listen.
Livelihood, or is it taking into consideration unorganized sector? That all questions remain.
No, those questions have been answered many times, but allow Professor Mehrotra to answer them again.
Okay. This is very easily answered. First of all, in every country in the world, jobs data is survey data. It's sample survey data. Nowhere in the world do you carry out a census. How many times does one have to say this? Point 1. Point 2. For 45 years, we have conducted sample surveys and the NSS has done this. And every time, no one, not ever before has this question been asked, this data is incomplete. No one has ever said this, ever. This is for the first time we are hearing. Once the data is, the survey is complete, it is approved by the National Statistical Commission. We are now told that it is incomplete. Point 3. Self-employment is also included in the National Sample Survey Organization. So if farmers are farming, and by the way, there are not 60% of our workforce are not farmers, only 47% are. If farmers are farming, they are captured in the survey. Next, Ola Uber is captured in the survey because they are in the sample. Mudra, self-employed workers are captured in the sample of the NSSO as well as in the Labour Bureau as well as in the CMIE data because they are self-employed. All organized and unorganized sector workers are captured in the sample. You know, why is it that we are even having this conversation? This data has been checked and it has been approved by the National Statistical Commission. I don't know what is the argument about. There is nothing to be checked. I'm sorry. There is nothing to be checked any longer. For 45 years, we rely upon the National Sample Survey Organization, and now suddenly we have to check this data when it has been approved. I mean, how long is this going to carry on?
Point out that several other industry indicators are showing a slip. We've seen a slip in the sales of cars, two-wheelers. We've seen a slip in the IIP. We've seen the inflation is not at its current best level either. There's a lot of data that suggests that all is not well. But Professor Mehrotra, if we set aside the questioning of the data itself and actually look at the data on merit, it shows a very scary picture for states like Haryana, Punjab, Jharkhand, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and Orissa that have, where unemployment has risen 4x.
Right.
In the last in the last 6 years.
Right. So let me try and explain this. You see, education levels have grown across the country, and obviously in the more developed states of the country, they have improved even more between 2011-12 and 2017-18. As more and more young people have gotten better educated, they enter the labor force, they start looking for work. And when they don't find work, it shows up in open unemployment. You see, the better educated you are, the more likely that you will be capable of withstanding a situation of no employment. The poorer you are, the lower your level of education, the more likely that you will be that your unemployment rate will be lower. Why? Because you can't afford to be unemployed. So, you see, we have to recognize two facts, which unfortunately people don't know and are not willing to recognize. One, that the number of entrants into the labor force has gone up from about 2-3 million per annum between 2004-05 and 11-12 to something like 7-8-9 million per annum. Secondly, the second big difference in the last 5 or 6 years is that the levels of education have improved. When the levels of education improve, then people are, willing to wait for a job until they get the right kind of job or right kind of wages, which is what is showing up. These two facts are simply showing up in the numbers that you are showing on the screen, that the open unemployment rate has gone from 2.2% to 6.1%. So let me give you more statistics. So between 2004-05 and 11-12, the educated unemployment rate was coming down. And the opposite has happened now. Between 11-12 and 17-18, the open unemployment rate of the educated has been going up. This is consistent with the fact that the overall average unemployment rate has gone from 2.2% to 6.1%, unprecedented in India's history.
Yes, absolutely.
And all the Ola, Uber, Mudra, self-employed, agriculture, industry, services, everything is captured here. Because everywhere in the world a sample survey is done. And it's one of the largest sample surveys in the world.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm going to leave it there, but we will come back and let me...
There's nothing to be checked in the data. Nothing to be checked.
When there is a 15 crore mudra loan, there is generation of so much about a labor days in every infrastructure.
But even the government, excuse me sir, even the government has said that 15 crore, excuse me,
taking place, housing construction is taking place. And there is a mudra loan, self-employment, all these issues move from the unorganized sector to the organized sector. And on the face of it, so much man days of labor is being generated over the 5 years. And if you say the employment is not being generated in that level, so how can these two things can be reconciled?
Professor?
So let me answer your question, sir. Mudra. First of all, Mudra loans might be 15 crore, but your own Mudra survey has said that the amount of jobs, quote unquote jobs, because there's a question mark about that, are only 1 crore, 1.2 crore from that.
Yes, so
which is perhaps one reason why the Mudra loan survey has not been released. Arey Baba, the employment, self-employment, sir, is captured in the 1.2 crore. It's captured, Baba. I mean, what is it that is you're not understanding, sir?
So,
I mean, do you have no statisticians in the government or what? I don't understand.
I'm asking you to fill the gap.
What is the gap, sir? Where is the gap, sir? Please prove me the gap, sir.
Either you say that 15 crore mudra loan have not been given.
Where is the gap, sir?
You should say then 15 crore mudra loan is not
Arey Baba, your own data is telling us.
Mudra loan has been given. And 50% are the new loans.
Arey, sun lijiye.
No, if the 50%...
No, gentlemen.
How can you say that a mudra loan data is wrong, but
no, one second.
Data is correct?
You know what, Gopal Agarwal, this is just an attempt to obfuscate the issue. Every time we talk about... No, one second. No, I'm not going down that road. I'm sorry, I'm not going down that road. Because every time we bring up the jobs issue, the government or the representative of the BJP tells us that this data is not reliable. Why don't you look at the Mudra data? The Mudra data, different members of the government have given us different numbers on Mudra, and Mudra is not an indicator of jobs. Jobs is an indicator of jobs. So just release the jobs data. If you don't want us to trust anything else, just release the jobs data. And just to explain very simply what Professor Mehrotra was telling us, the government keeps saying the NSSO data, which is its own data, is not reliable because it doesn't capture the unofficial, jobs or the farmers or other kinds of self-employment. This is a survey which means they walk into someone's home. They ask every member of the home, do you work? Where do you work? What are you earning? How many days of the year do you work? How many days of the month do you work? How much do you get paid per day? And they capture that data irrespective of whether that's official or unofficial, or whether it is farming or it's daily wage, it's landed or it's not landed. They capture all of that data. This is among the largest sample sizes in the world that is considered for jobs. Just because it's inconvenient doesn't mean it's not true. If the government wants us to stop considering this data, please release the official data you promised us in the month of March. It's inconvenient because there's an election around the corner. That doesn't mean that what's happening in our country is going to stop for an election. If we have a job crisis, that crisis continues unabated. It's for us to keep in mind. Thanks for watching.